Hands up who's going to Bilbao. Trimmers?
No, I'll be there in spirit, but not quite practical for me at this stage. But
Were you boys always going?
Yeah, if you made the final, we were always going.
Yeah, definitely we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's be honest, did you boys travel to, Punahaki and Whittlesea and all these places back in the day, or?
It's fair to say we've been everywhere.
We've locked up a few Ks, so this is true.
We've been.
And a few drinks along the way, but
Yeah.
no, we've tried to get where he's been, whether it's Yokohama or Glasgow with Celtic. We've always made the effort to get there.
Yeah, we've got a Guernsey from every team that he's ever coached at. So yeah, we've always been there. Yeah.
And you brought a few in as well. We'll have a look at those later. But Trimmers, you're obviously a close mate and a huge fan as well. Just because you can't travel doesn't mean you're not emotionally invested.
no, absolutely. I was just saying to the boys, I remember back, I think it was 1994, sitting in my little white Corolla behind the goals at Western Suburbs, because you could actually park up against the fence, and he was player coach. I think it was his first gig as a coach, and he'd finished up at South with his knee, and then he'd become an assistant, I think, for the remainder of that time, and then he started out at Western Suburbs. So yeah.
What are your memories of that time and that season?
Weirdly enough, I remember the transition period because he'd hurt his knee the year before, and then we were doing pre-season outside Middle Park. The boys would remember probably playing there as juniors, and he was training away from the group, and he was trying to get himself right. And I just remember the limp he had when he was trying to run. And if you remember Ange when he played, he was a gazelle, stick thin, run up and down all day, and just to see him kind of limping away, he had so much desire to try to get back, and it just didn't look good, and then that was the next stage for him where, he started the coaching.
We were reminiscing about the same time, probably the year after, we were at Melbourne. I was coaching, Chris was the captain of Melbourne, and we got him in as the guest player to come in. How long did he last for?
Not too long.
I think it was the third game.
We won't talk about the red card he got.
The red card he got as well. He's a bit angry.
Tackle, mouth?
2 yellows in the first 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah. He was playing.
And thanks for substituting me at half-time.
He's not happy. He still remembers it because I substituted at half-time. But Ange scored the first game, I think. He did. Scored the first game, played well the second, third game, first half, done, knee gone. That was the end. Yeah.
Did you, even then, or how early on did you sense that he was going to go on to bigger and better things?
I'll tell you a funny story from my point of view, right? So when he started at South Melbourne and he'd had a little bit of a stint there and started doing well, initially it was a bit tough, wasn't it, the early bit? And then he started doing well. Tell you how confident I was, right? Because he was just a smart guy. He's a smart guy, Ange, right? And he's a very clever operator, intelligent guy, and good football smart. So you could see it early on. I remember writing on his behalf, because he was Liverpool mad Liverpool fan, right? Mad growing up, right? So I wrote to Roy Evans, who was the coach at the time, saying this guy is the up and coming young guy. Just get him over for a few months, and you'll see that he'll be the best assistant you ever had. Didn't get a response.
You tried.
I tried.
Not even an acknowledgement.
Nothing, mate. Nothing. Yeah, Roy. Not happy with Roy.
But you picked it.
Well, yeah, he's a top man. Yeah, top man.
And I think having played with him, I think knowing him as the player, he always had that leadership about him. Like, he was young, but he was sort of on that, he could operate at both levels. He was one of the boys, and the thing that a lot of people don't know, he's a very funny bloke. He's a smart ass, he's quick-witted.
Yeah, we try not to encourage him too much.
So around the boys, he was one of us, but he was the captain. But he could also operate at that higher level with the hierarchy. He knew how to be on that level as well. And he was always thinking about stuff. And like you said, the yellow cards, he was the first to fly the flag. If there needed to be a strong tackle, he would do it. So he always had that kind of leadership right from when I first met him. Yeah. That's one thing probably people may not know about him, is he's a real consumer of everything. And whether it be football, all sports, pop culture, whatever it was, he's just across stuff. He's actually voracious with his appetite for it. I remember there was remember the old bookstore in Elizabeth Street, Melbourne Sports Books, and there wasn't a lot coming out, but if it was something about an MBA or a successful guy in this, and then it translated what's happening in the broader world, you're right, and he uses elements of that. That's why he's so good in interviews. That's why he's so good around teams, because He's got a great ability to connect something with something, tell a story, motivate, inspire. But he's
Like his house was full. Melbourne sports books. We used to go down and spend half a day.
Santo, remember Santo?
So we used to just and get autobiographies, and a lot of them even back then was actually coaching ones, right? Like coaches from the UK, whatever we could find, and coaches from other sports as well, and of course, every shoot magazine, every match magazine, every 442 was devoured, right? I've got a quick story about him, about what Trimmer's point about his widespread knowledge and just how he's informed about stuff. So I was at a breakfast one day, corporate breakfast, right? And I was sitting next to Barry Cassidy, who's the journalist.
Offsiders.
Offsiders, yeah. And I don't know him at all, right? So I just sat next to him and I said, "Oh, you got one of my mates on your show, right?" And he said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Ange." And he just looked at me and he said, "I've got to say to you," and his long career, interviewed so many people, he said, "He's the most impressive guy for the reason that we could be talking about football, and that's what he's in there, so he'd talk all about soccer and football, clearly. But we talked about any other sport. He was well informed. He knew exactly what was going on with any other sport." And then he said, and then we'd talk about a current affairs issue or something would come up about political or something. And he goes, "Mate, he would actually contribute." And he goes, "I've never seen that of any identity that we've had that can transcend like that." So really impressive. Yeah.
And really ahead of, I remember at South Melbourne when he was coach, the first grand final we played in, and we all met at the stadium at South Melbourne, and we were going to catch a bus into Olympic Park, and he got everyone together and he put a video together. And we hadn't seen anything like that. I mean, it probably wasn't groundbreaking, but for our group and in in Australian football, and he'd done the Hunters and Collectors song Holy Grail. And the club at that point, I think we'd lost 5 preliminary finals in 6 years. So we were that close to a grand final. I think it was payback for that grand final against the Knights where we got out of jail. And by the end of it, the way he constructed the actual imagery with the lyrics and everything around it, mate, the dressing room boys were so emotional, almost in tears before the game. And it was just amazing. It just hit the spot, and the guys still talk about it, It was amazing, yeah. But that was his ability to do that.
You and Ange just told this story, right? We went there, obviously, but every time I hear that song, it reminds me of that. Like every time, it brings me back to that time.
It was amazing, yeah. I was getting goosebumps thinking about it, yeah.
A few of you boys got a plug in the last few days from Ange in one of his many interviews that he's done and one of the many he's done to preview the Europa League final. How do you feel when you hear that?
For me, actually, I think we're the fortunate ones because we get to these games and watch it and soak it in without the pressure that this bloke's going through and to deliver it. But for him, we would not have gone to Yokohama. But for him, we would not have seen Rangers v Celtic and understand what the importance of that in Scotland, but for him and on it goes. So I feel fortunate.
That is so Ange, right? And this is the thing about him as a person, right? Genuinely, the fact that we can be there. He's always said this journey is so much more because you guys can share in it, because that's the way he is. So the fact that we're there for Ange is as big as anything else, right? And that's genuine. That's just him as a person.
Trim, is you disappointed you didn't get a plug?
No. This crew's, they go back a long way. So I've been privileged enough to actually watch those interactions as well. So it's fantastic. And it just shows that that's the thing with Ange. I wouldn't say he's friends. He hasn't got a lot of a network. He's got a lot of people he knows, but the inner core is really strong there. Absolutely, yeah.
It all started back here, boys. Talk us through some of these extraordinary images.
We can't place it, but it obviously goes back a few years, Dave. That's me on the right, Nick in the middle, and Ange on the left, and it was cold chisel.
Yeah, we're knocking our K-Sam there, aren't we?
I reckon it's about early 20s, so that would be about mid-80s.
The first thing I look at there, what about the hair?
It's thinned a bit. And it's greyed a bit.
Yeah. Shiny ties as well. Really good fashion statement there.
That was the fashion at the time, though, Dave. We were cutting
so
edge.
They say.
Yeah.
So they say.
It's coming back, though.
Yeah. Trimmers used to would have been a little baby, I reckon, back then in nappies.
But to be fair, I was at plenty of functions where that always at similar time of the evening, similar time of the alcohol consumption. But K-Sam would always get a run. And you know what? That's the other thing about it. He knew every bloody word.
He was very good.
Every song that was ever written. He's amazing. Yeah.
Obviously, you don't see this side of Ange these days. He's busy managing and racks up, who knows, 100 hours a week working. But what was he like back in the day growing up socially?
Yeah. Look, the thing about Ange, we mentioned before, he's a funny guy. And when he's comfortable and around his people, right, he's just the best company. He really is. And we were consumed by sport. Like, we were just mad sports fans. I mean, clearly football, soccer. You know, when they go, like, if you go on a TV show, like, I don't know, one of those, you know, what's your area of expertise? Like, you know, all we talked about was football and soccer. When you're everything about the English Premier League, I watch the interviews now that he's having of that, and the knowledge he just chucks in about English football, they're probably sitting there going, how on earth, like, can you know that much? Well, that's a lifetime. All we did was football and sport too. We're mad sports, and Ange, love his footy.
When he went to Tottenham, he told us that, you know, he knew a lot about Tottenham, right? And he was talking to the Mabbits of this world, and they're saying, well, he knows the players of the 70s and 80s for Tottenham, not just the current squad. And they're saying, how do you know all this? Because he's a true follower of the sport.
Yeah, they're not coming back with questions about South Melbourne and Alan Davidson and Paul Trimboli, I wouldn't have thought.
No, but they were impressed that someone knows so much about their club.
And like you said, and it starts with the Shoot magazines, it starts with all the books, even to the point, you remember, fast forward a little bit, but remember when that first sort of fantasy league stuff came in? I remember you guys with your draft and who's picking who and the arguments. And
Lots of arguments.
But all over it, all over it,
So I remember on that, right? Remember we were playing golf one day? We were playing golf in Oakley, the three of us one day. And as we were walking along, Royal Oakley, and we, as Trimmer said, we do a draft, right, and all that. And we were in the 20s, right? So it's 35, 40 years ago, right? So we're going, imagine if we went public with this and we charged everyone $10, right, to go in and we'd have a prize pool. That could be really good. And then as we walked, by the time we got to the green, we're going, no, that's a shit idea. That'll never work.
And now you've got the English Fantasy Premier League.
It's the biggest thing.
We're ahead of our time.
So on the fantasy theme, tell us about this fantasy league that you had, that you obviously had to stop, or Ange had to pull himself out of after he got the Tottenham job.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the proper one, not the one we made up.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, under the integrity rules, it's not that it's a big deal, but I just don't think he wanted to take the risk, and it just looked a bit foolish. So
He did win it before.
He'd even win that every year, right?
it was an unfair competition. He actually knew what he was doing.
The rest of us were just making it up. Yeah.
So tyranny of distance makes it challenging to stay in touch. Can you just talk to your friendship and I guess how you've stayed connected over the years and over the decades?
Well, obviously nothing like an in-person meeting, and we've been fortunate to get to Yokohama and Glasgow and the UK. Most of us are regularly sort of in dialogue via a text message or a chat. I try to stay out of his way before match day because he's got plenty on. I think we've also been fortunate that I think Tottenham's come out twice, Perth and here last year.
Celtic as well.
Celtic has come out as well. So that helps to maintain the connection. But when we get together, it's like no time has passed. You just pick up from where you left off.
Yeah, and just the enjoyment with Ange when we are together, you can see it. He misses having his mates around him because that's one of the shortfalls of doing what he does, right? He hasn't got those closest to him around him. So it's a great time whenever we catch up. Fantastic time.
You can see he becomes a different person, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think he can let his hair down, just be himself, and he likes to tell a story, and he's always got something humorous. So.
Does he dominate the discussion when you guys catch up?
Not necessarily, but he's always got. I mean, we're sort of keen to hear from him what's going on.
He gives us a good update of stuff that we, it's hard to know exactly what's going on, and he gives us a good update, and then we reminisce a lot. So we go back to old stories and have a good laugh. Yeah.
Just a few shots from over the journey, starting with this Yokohama. I guess where that overseas journey very much begun after he, surprisingly controversially left the Socceroos.
Yeah.
So that would be Yokohama at home at their alternative ground, not their main stadium, because the main stadium was out of action because of the Rugby World Cup. So that year they had to play at a different stadium. I reckon it was Gamba Osaka, and they won 4-2.
Yep.
And it was a terrific atmosphere.
A great atmosphere. Different crowds in Japan, but the way they coordinated their celebrations and that, it was.
At the end of the game, they were twirling the umbrellas. There was like 5,000 people twirling umbrellas and singing in Japanese.
It was like something we've never seen before, and that was building up to the championship, obviously. So
at October, so that's the year they won it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it wasn't all smooth sailing in Japan either. I mean, they almost got relegated in that second season.
Yeah. But that's Ange all over, isn't it? Initially picks up whatever he inherits, and then he builds what he builds, and initially there's a bit of dislocation because he makes changes and implements it the way he wants, and then he famous quote, but he always gets it done. He imprints his way, and it comes through. Success follows.
You got over to Japan as well, Trimmers?
Yeah, I saw him that year as well. It's interesting. I think I don't know the exact number, but I think he said something like he turned over 17 players after that first season, which was remarkable. And you sort of hark back to the Brisbane Roar days, and he did some, not controversial in the end result, but at the time he moved on some players, or as he likes to say it, he doesn't move people on. He just creates an environment, sets a new standard, and the people either can step up and live up to it, or they almost take themselves out. Yeah, they choose, yeah.
A la Brisbane Roar, Socceroos.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think that year, even though they were never in danger the first year, they finished almost equal points with the team that got relegated. So, but they were never in danger of getting.
And that's why he's quite famous also for when he's signing players, that he always has the discussion with them, right? And all he's looking at is the research has been done as far as the type of player, the style of player. It's about the person and whether they've got the attributes and the mindset that he thinks will thrive in what his expectations are. So he's very big on getting a really good connection like that.
During that Japan period and when you went to visit him, how was he viewed from the fans, and what sense did you get from Ange in terms of where he was at in his career and where he was going?
My view of it was he was held in very high esteem for one, because culturally the Japanese are very respectful, but Ange having been a national team coach and coming from Australia, which the Japanese rate quite highly, and they could see the football that he was playing, right? And at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want, but when everyone comes to the ground and see that they're playing really good football and getting results, I saw the interactions with the locals. It was very respectful.
I think the style of football was the big thing, because they really embraced it, and also just the esteem with which he was held within the club and the officials of the club. You could really clearly see it culturally in Japan. Ange and Georgia and the kids, they loved living in Japan. Culturally, it was a fantastic change for them, and they really enjoyed it, and the respect for a professional like Ange and the way he went about his work was really evident.
It looks like you guys enjoyed it as well, eh? I reckon you might have been the big winners out of this Japan trip.
The constant theme is we have good nights out, basically.
Do you want to know why we enjoyed that dinner? Because he shouted. It was a very nice Japanese restaurant.
It was. Yeah, great night. So we always, and Ange is again very generous. Anytime we go somewhere, we all organise big nights out. Yeah, great nights out. Yeah.
Talk about the legacy. I mean, the fact that no doubt he transformed Japanese football in a sense, and I don't think that's overstating it. But also, if you look at Yokohama, Kevin Muscat, Harry Kewell, Peter Klomoski was obviously there during the time. But in terms of the head coaching roles, the Aussies who've succeeded him, and now Patrick Kisnorbo, that is a genuine legacy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. And he's always paved the way for that, and he always tries to help as well. If you look at his whole career, he doesn't necessarily take people with him. In fact, he doesn't. But he always gives opportunities, if he can, to anyone with an Aussie connection. He's done it everywhere.
Even at Tottenham.
Even now.
Mila Jelinek and Montgomery.
And Nick Montgomery and Sergio, who's the assistant of Montgomery here. So he always tries to get that Harry at Celtic right through in Japan as well.
And I remember when he was Socceroos coach, he would get, I think he invited Johnny and Johnny A into the Socceroos camp to observe. Now, he doesn't even have to think about that, right? He's got enough on his plate, but he does want to leave a legacy and, help people come along.
Mm. And you obviously worked with him, Trimmers, so...
Yeah, I think one of the things I took out of it was that, especially when we played, there was a lot of coaches, every club had a coach, and I think back in the day, there wasn't a lot of coaches who you could actually attribute a style to. There was a lot of what I used to call personality coaches, ex-players, get the team up, have good man management, but, maybe tactically, not that intent. But I think what Ange managed to do, and Brisbane was a showcase for it initially, and he's taken it with him, was style and substance. Do you know what I mean? Which is a hard combination, You've often got teams who are beautiful on the eye, but they're a bit flaky, and to be fair, Tottenham have been accused of that recently. But in the past, you saw the fact that he was able to combine a really entertaining, good brand of football with success, which we didn't have many of that. Like if you think back, Zoran Madic, I remember, was definitely, he had a style, you know what I mean? But if you think back, there wasn't that many. Len McHenry had a style, but there wasn't many, and I think Ange really, he's got a style and substance.
I think on that, if you mention Ange's name, the first thing everyone says associates with it is his style of football, the identity. It's very clear, right? So he's done that all through. The other thing about Ange, right, he's a practical guy in amongst the ideology of playing attractive football. Came from his dad, right? He's talked about it a lot. He loves the way that his style of play. He loves that style of football, but he does it because he genuinely thinks that's the best way to also get results. And they both work hand in hand. It's not just for the sake of playing that way.
And that's not easy. A lot of coaches would love to have that, but he's managed to do that. Yeah.
You mentioned Johnny A, which for the uninitiated is John Anastasiadis, former South Melbourne great, used to score goals for fun, particularly coming off the bench. Has had a fantastic coaching record himself. You're working with him at the moment at Heidelberg United, Nick. I understand that Ange actually catches a few of your games from over at in London and Tottenham's training ground.
Yeah, he does. It's funny. Yeah, Johnny is a fantastic coach and doing well this year, and he's good mates with Ange, so communicate and what have you. But Ange every now and then will drop a note because he does watch all our games, right? And every now and then he'll say to me, we beat Hume one day 5-1. And our Japanese young player, he's only 20, scored a hat-trick. And he literally basically goes, oh, your Japanese boy did really well. Well done, right? So I've said to him at training that night, Ange was watching you last night. And he's going, oh, my God.
Guy's walking 10 feet tall.
Grew 10 foot, yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic.
The club's getting excited about a potential transfer fee, yeah?
They've already spent it.
That'll be new grandstand, that one. Yeah.
Just going back to Ange's influences, what was the biggest influence on him as a manager, do you feel?
Starting back, he talks about it a lot, but he's got this connection with his father and the style of football that really emerged his view on how football should be played, and that goes back right through the way. But he was a mad Liverpool supporter, and he loved the way Liverpool played. But he's such a student, right? He looks at everything, observes everything, and constantly is taking things out of it all. But he's got, he's really developed a way of playing which is. Everyone involved, everyone attacks, everyone defends, right? And the old total football, the sort of methodology of the Dutch sort of era. But Liverpool was always his guy. He loved the Liverpool team through the 70s, 80s, and whatever. We talked about them endlessly.
Shankly quotes and all that.
Shankly, I'm a Man U, so he's Liverpool. So they used to smash me, but Ange loved Liverpool.
Yeah. I remember watching the old VHS tapes, the Liverpool, that 80s decade. Yes. We would watch that tape over and over, and just the passing movements and the technique, the speed and the goals and the crowd at Anfield look amazing, really.
And he had Kenny Dalglish was his favourite player, so he had him on his wall, right? So when he went to Celtic to meet Kenny Dalglish, who was a legend there, it was a big thrill.
You guys are all independently successful trimmers. Is there anything you can't do? Media, executive, football role? Chris Nikou, former Football Australia chairman, executive at the Asian Football Confederation in numerous roles. Nick, you're top of the pops in the local Victorian State League competition with Heidelberg United as a football manager, and had your own successful executive career. Can I just ask, how has Ange, if in fact he has, influenced you guys on a personal level?
Yeah, I think because Ange actually it's not just about football. He talks about life as well. So sometimes when I think about words that he says and try to, depending on what I'm going through, reflect on myself, and I think he's got a good moral compass, and that sort of helps your decision, the values-based decision making. So for me, it's if you listen to his presses, it's more than just football, right? He talks about a lot of things. And I think there's a lot to be learnt about that, about treating people fairly and well. I think he's often said in a presser that he knows that for some of the supporters coming to the ground, life might be tough. This is their moment to escape and have a bit of escapism and get some normality back. So he understands that everyone's got a different journey and has their struggles, and I think he just wants to give them a few hours every week where they can forget about it.
Mm. Yeah, I agree 100% with all that. I think the thing that I take out of him is his human connection with people. And it's a balance. We talked about it's a fine balance, because he's always been someone that keeps his distance, has that professional distance. And that's really necessary because he's in the cutting edge, really competitive environment. So there's tough decisions that need to be made. So he's always had that authoritarian distance, but he marries that against and blends that in with being people wanting to run through brick walls for him. It's an unbelievable combination, to be honest. And I've never heard a player who, even if they've left a club, right? And usually when players leave a club, there's some level of discontent, right? For whatever reason. You've never heard anyone say anything about Ange that was anything untoward around the way he's managed all of that. So he's a great people person. Just the other thing for me is, it's an attribute that is really important because life doesn't go always to plan. You know, it's ups and downs. He is at his best, at his fighting best. He's a fighter. He's the biggest fighter, the biggest warrior you'd ever meet. And he's at his best when things aren't going well. He just doubles, redoubles, and actually he quite likes being in that space. It brings the best out of him. He's talked about that a lot.
Augurs well for Bilbao.
Yeah, similar to these guys. I think I'd probably say inspiration in a way, just to back yourself. The belief he has, it's unwavering, you know, even when everybody can be saying one thing, he's saying the other. I remember there was a period after, in Brisbane, there was that incredible 36-game unbeaten run, and then we lost 5 in a row. And everyone was saying, Ange, you got to mix it up, you got to change it up, it's stable, everyone's worked it out. I reckon even Georgia, his wife, was starting to say, yeah, maybe you need to change it. And he refused, and the team ended up, you know, winning the championship that year. So I think that's an inspiration because he's had challenge after challenge. You know, he succeeded in so many different environments, which is a testament to him and his ability to manage, his ability to see the future, his ability to just stay, you know, stick strong with his beliefs. You know, semi-pro, full-time pro in Australia, national team level, language barrier, international, Asia, Europe, where people dismissed him without even seeing him, and then now he's in the biggest league in the world. So I mean, that can't be anything but inspirational.
You touched on Georgia. She's a ripper. A force of nature herself as well. Ange constantly references her in the big moments and the sacrifices that she and the family have had to make. Can you guys obviously know Georgia well. Can you just expand on her and I guess her role in the scheme of things?
She's got a heart of gold. I think she's a great support for him and a good sounding board. And it's not easy being, you know, it's been the 4 of them really, and living in a foreign country and, you know, Japan, Scotland, England, and I think it's just galvanised them through what they've been together. And I think she's terrific for the family unit.
They're a great team. And Georgia's got this ability to be, you know, a beautiful person and quite very calm. So you see, even the kids, they're really calm and happy, right? Because their home is that. But she's also got the eye and, you know, when things need to be done, she's really strong as well. So they're an amazing team together, an amazing support. They've been all over the world, and she's uprooted every time with the kids, and they've moved to wherever Ange is, and not easy to do, but they've done it really well.
What's been the highlight of the Ange journey from your perspective?
Next Wednesday. I think he's
Thursday Australian time.
Well, not for us.
Yeah.
I do think he wins next week. So I think it's just the journey. I mean, if you step back from it, and we were having a chat as a group beforehand, back to the Melbourne Knights days and South Melbourne and all that sort of stuff, and these blokes could play, but I was a spectator. So, but to go from that environment and just see someone that you know just get onto the world stage in the biggest league in the world, and have success is just unbelievable. If you said that to us, even if you said that to him 20 years ago, he probably said, "What have you been smoking?" Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think his ability, he keeps finding another mountain to climb and another thing to tick off on a list of things that there's plenty of coaches in the world never get near what he's been able to achieve. And as we talk about his origins, it's just an amazing story. And it's not over yet either. Like, it'll just keep going, because who would have thought, I reckon even when he was at Yokohama, who would have imagined, that 3-4 years later he'd be there? I would say, because of the level of football and the notoriety around it, he'd be the most famous sporting name, Australian name globally. You know, Oscar Piastri's winning a couple of Grand Prix, but I'm talking about global discussion around sport.
He's absolutely one of the most referenced football and sports coaches in the world.
Incredible.
Tottenham are right up there.
I think to be in one of the top teams in England, which is the biggest league and biggest profile league, and everyone around the world watches it. It's so high profile, and for him to have achieved that, coming from a non-footballing nation, which has been a bit of a millstone, because the fact is, right, I still even now they go, how's this Aussie ended up being a top manager globally in one of the top leagues with one of the top clubs, it's mind-boggling. And we sometimes laugh about it because that was like, you dream about it as kids, right, that we'd end up doing something in sport, in football, right? And he's reached the top, which is just amazing. And this next week will be another chapter. For me, it's like, it's all the success, but the other thing is just about him, the person. I mean, all the way along, he's always like, always makes time for those closest to him, like, at a drop of the hat. He's just that type of person.
Let's set the scene for Bilbao, and you have to reflect on the Spurs' journey to date. It's almost been bizarro world from an Ange Postecoglou perspective. Usually it's a really slow start, Trimmers, you'll appreciate this, always challenges at the start, sometimes calling for his head. Where's this going? Spurs, it was the absolute reverse. I mean, they raced out of the blocks. Manager of the month, I think, for 3 months on the bounce, record.
Only one to do it.
Yeah, and then obviously things changed thereafter. How have you reflected on, I guess, the journey and how they got off to such a fast start?
Yeah, and it was a fast start off the back of the previous 2 years where they had really high-profile coaches, and they were doing okay, but not that well. But also the style of football was on the nose. The Spurs supporters didn't like the style of football. They wanted attractive football. Ange comes in, wins he's top of the ladder after 10 games. The style of football is fantastic. So everyone's loving Ange. And then obviously there's been challenges ever since. And I think there's reasons for it. I've been really interested to see how he's navigated trying to deal with it and also explain it and using facts to explain it, but also being very conscious that it's reasons, not excuses, right? And all of that's been playing out. And I think it's been a challenging period. But again, he's such a strong person, and he won't shy away from it. Every press conference, he'll try to explain what's going on. So it's been an interesting journey. But to get to where he is now, I think will be a fantastic, indication of where he's been able to hold the line through this year's difficulties and end up with real success. I think is going to be a real high point.
Yeah. I think when you consider that he lost Harry Kane when he first went to Spurs, his start was even more impressive. I think the second year has been an anomaly. He's had a horrible run with injuries, but then as they've had Europa success, he's been practical to know this is our best chance to bring success to the club. And you saw that in the lineup on the weekend, right? The starting 11 was actually on the bench because that's the right thing to do, right? And I think it was Kulusevski got injured in about the 20th and 19th minute, no risk straight off. So I think he's had to adjust. So I think you've got to take it against that background the second year.
Mm. And Trimmers used to walking out to a lot of these, press conferences. You generally do one, maybe two a week, in the A-League. Over there, he's doing 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 interviews a week. It's just extraordinary, isn't it?
He would have done a couple of hundred press things so far this year. It's crazy because there's the match day -1, there's the match day +1, and then with the midweek games, that match day +1 becomes the next day's match day -1 for the next game. It's just the same questions over and over again, and trying to give some different. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I mean, and as he said, of course I'm going to say something silly at some point or something stupid, but he goes, when you're talking that much, and you know what the press are like, though. I mean, you lived in that world. They love that. They'll take something that happened, that he said 6 months ago, and then they'll hold it, wait to use it against him. But yeah, what a challenging environment. And this final challenges again. All of a sudden, just when you thought that injury crisis has abated, all of a sudden he's lost Madison, he's lost Berval, and now Kulusevski, which is incredible. And Berval, I think they were playing a rondo at training, and he went to turn and he does his ankle. Like crazy stuff.
And that's the thing. A lot of them, have been, in-game soft tissue, etc., where, naturally questions will be asked. But a lot of them have been so innocuous. I think Solanke as well. Shooting
training.
So with Matters out and Kulusevski, I think sort of who is playing that 10 role, right, to behind the striker will be really interesting because there's not an obvious choice there, so he's going to have to make that choice. I think also you talk about the injuries. I mean, I saw a stat the other day that when he had these back four of Vicario with Porro,
Romero,
Van der Ven, and Odongi, they won 75% of the games. So they've only played a third of the games, though. That's been the problem. So it's a really high level of success when you've got that defence intact. But because he hasn't had it, that's been a real problem. It's been well documented. But he's had to improvise, and now it's all everything is around this game now.
I mean, you touched on it, Trimmers. The British press, they are relentless. I've lived over there. It is next level. There are clearly agendas at play, and this is why I've been such an advocate, and so many people have been advocates for Australian coaches. Our coaches, I stand by this, are massively underrated in a global sense, and Ange has absolutely proved that. A lot of people have gone for him this season. It's been tough to watch from my perspective. On a personal level, he's done extraordinarily well to handle it. It's been a deluge at times. How have you guys, found it on a personal note as a mate?
Yeah. Tough is the one word answer. And I was interested in his comment the other day. He said again, I think it was in the last week or so. He said it's not me, right? Because as we said, he's the kind of person that gets him focused even more. That gets him wanting to prove people wrong even more and to do what he does even more. He said it's the people around me that are closest to me that feel it, and it is very hard to watch. As someone who's very close to him and loves him, his family, his friends, it's difficult to watch because it is relentless. The nature of it is it's relentless, but he's commendably. Yeah, I know at times he's Mr. Angry, right? And he gets a bit grumpy, but commendably, he just keeps going through it and keeps answering and fronting up every time. He hasn't once deflected to someone else taking a press conference from the club.
It's true.
No,
Not once.
Part of me was thinking, if he wasn't an Aussie and he wasn't an outsider, he wouldn't be getting such a hard time. And because he does make himself available, probably more than most Premier League coaches, I think the media just have a feeding frenzy sometimes, right? And they want to write stuff that is controversial, and the fact that he's stood his ground, not thrown anyone under the bus, he's taken responsibility is really admirable.
Yeah, it's been tough, and as Nick said, the toll on everybody else, because I think he takes it on board and he kind of knows what's coming. I think there was some tough ones to watch this year. The one I think where I really thought, wow, he's on a fine edge here I think it was the Newcastle game when he was talking about the fair and level playing field, and that was really uncomfortable to watch, do you remember? The other ones where he gets a bit angry and fires back, but that one he looked really agitated, didn't he? He looked like, wow, this is starting to hit him, But he sort of composed himself since then, but yeah, tough.
I think, and he was only stating facts, trophy in the second year. I think Gary Neville the other day said that this will be the greatest or one of the greatest up yours to all and sundry. It may have been both, but I certainly saw Gary Neville referenced it to people if he does, win the Europa League. Talk to us about, I guess, Bilbao Europa League final. What a win would mean for him, for you guys.
So it's a 53 and a bit thousand stadium. I'm hoping the neutrals are with Tottenham, right? Because United knocked their team out of the final, right? So, and an All England final is going to be special between the fans. So I think it'd be a terrific occasion. I genuinely believe they've had a good run against United. So I think it's tight because it's a final, but I reckon he gets there.
Yeah, and the atmosphere will be fantastic. We'll be lucky enough to see it, which will be fantastic. It looks like a terrific stadium. I think because it's United, Spurs and United, they're high-profile teams out of the biggest league in the world. I think globally there's going to be a lot of interest, more so possibly than another team being in there from another country. So it's going to be huge. And I think for Ange, all the work that he's put in to get to the point of being at the top of his career in a top management job, and what he's been through the last 2 years, I think it's going to be really sweet. So we can't wait.
What do you think, Trimmers? I mean, it's fantasy stuff. Ange Postecoglou facing Manchester United in the Europa League final. What will it mean?
It's boys' own stuff, isn't it? And exactly what these guys said. And I've got a good feeling. I think his teams historically have showed great resilience in finals. He's won some amazing final, like with drama-drenched games, if you recall, all the way back, South Melbourne, Brisbane, Australia in the Asia Cup, extra time and everything that goes with it. So, as we know, he'll relish the challenge and, it'll be amazing. I can't wait.
You reckon Man will be doing their research on some of those old NSL finals?
I tell you what, they better start fast, Man U, and they better stay strong at the end because his teams, Ange's teams, that's what they do.
Absolutely. And boys, what's the pre-game ritual?
Getting there's half the problem at the moment.
He's had his flight.
I had my flight cancelled, so I'm planes, trains, and automobiles to get there.
I think you're bussing it, aren't you?
I am bussing it. So if I get abducted, you know what's happened. I get in Tuesday night.
I'll give you Monday night.
Monday night. I think the plan is to hopefully see Ange briefly, leave him alone, and then we've got a meal Tuesday night with the broader group. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff in Spain, so it'll be a low-key day with lunch and then off to the ground to support the great man.
The way it usually rolls is every game we've ever been to, we catch up with him in the hotel after the game. So this is going to be extra special because clearly, hopefully, that's with the win. So hopefully we'll catch up with him on the Wednesday night after the game. Yeah, maybe before. And then hopefully on the Thursday we might be able to catch up as well. They've got a game. They've got to get back because they're playing their last league game v Brighton on Sunday. So I think they'll jet out quickly. I'm not sure exactly when. So hopefully we can catch him for a couple of days around the game, on the night of the game and the day after.
If they win the Europa, they might even forfeit that game. Who knows?
Could be.
Trimmers, moccasins.
Yeah, the blanket on the couch,
Coffee?
early rise. Yeah. So that's if I can sleep. I always find it tough when I know there's a game on, because I'll be honest, I don't watch all their games now, especially with that time difference. But it's weird how often I'm just checking the phone just to see the score, and it's just in my mind. I can't sleep properly when they're playing because I just want to see what's going on, even if I'm not watching it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, boys. I think a lot of people will be living vicariously through you guys. I would love to be in Bilbao, but appreciate your time. Thanks for reflecting on some great memories, and let's get Ange and the Spurs over the line.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, David.